If you look at the float, it will actually say on the side how much shot it needs to sink it down to the correct level. So by combining different sizes and weights of shots, we can get the float to sit higher or lower in the water. But we also put shots down the line, and the rules of applying the shot to the float setup are quite important. For general all-round float fishing on a still water with maggots as I've been, a size 18 hook is absolutely perfect. Now this one is ready attached to the nylon, and if you go to the fishing tackle shop you can buy what are called hooks to nylon, so look out for those, but go for a small hook if you're going to fish the maggot, like an 18 or a 16. And then if you look at the line, we've got some other shots. The smallest shot is the one that goes closest to the hook. It's called the dropper or telltale shot, and I've got a number 8, or you can use a number 6 shot just a few centimetres away from the hook to register the bite. And then on the line itself, I might have 1, 2 or 3 shots depending on the depth of the water. In a shallow swim like this one, I'd probably only have 1 shot at about half depth. But if I was fishing in water 2 or 3 metres deep, I would definitely add a couple more shots to the line. And then above that, we've got the most important shot of all in terms of the general performance of the kit, and that is what we call the bulk shot. The bulk shot sits directly either side of the float, and you're talking about 3/4 of the weights that you need, or the amount of weight that you need to sink this float, are located directly around the base.
Here's another look at the float rig. The bulk shot are placed around the base of the float and make up 75% of the total shot loading. The rest of the shots are spaced out in the bottom half of the line, and the telltale or trigger shot is the closest to the hook and often rests on the bottom.
This is one of the first fish I ever caught as a kid. In fact, for many years it was about the only fish I ever caught. I couldn't catch anything else. But if you get a bait on the bottom, you'll catch a gudgeon normally, and that's a good sign. Shows your bait's in the right place. Now this special weight that I've got attached to the line here is one of the most important things that you can own as a fisherman. They cost less than a couple of quid, but they are absolutely vital for any form of float fishing. This is called a plummet, and its job is to basically tell you what the depth of water is in front of you. Most times when you're fishing with a float, you want your bait to actually be on the bottom, because that's where most fish feed. Not always the case, but it often is. And to use a plummet, basically the line passes through the loop or the hole at the top, down the side of the plummet, and then gets pushed into the base. This can be cork, or in this case a piece of foam that helps the hook to sit in there, and it will just sit there on the line like that, dragging the float down as it goes. And we can use this to actually tell with great accuracy the depth in different parts of the swim. So now we're going to do one of the most important operations of the day. We're going to plumb the depth. I've got a plummet here on the line already, and I'm going to make an underarm swing to cast this, because if you make a little lob like this, you get a more accurate reading, because the float tends to follow the plummet down the same hole. Now there you go, you can see straight away the float's way up on the surface there, sticking up like an Eddystone lighthouse. That's because it's set too deep for the swim. Now I'll take some depth off, and the way I do that is by moving these shots on the line. I'm going to slide them down by probably about ½ metre, and that will basically mean that the float is set shallower. And I'll now cast this out into the same area. And there you go, the float's actually completely disappeared, which tells me I'm no longer deep enough for this swim. So I started off too deep with the float sticking up like that. Now I'm too shallow, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to split the difference, because I know that the proper depth now is somewhere between where I had it before and where I've got it now. So I'm now going to move this about half the distance back up the line, about ½ metre, that's all. And there you go. Just a smidgen of the float sticking up above the water, which tells me that I've now got this set at exactly the right depth for this swim. But because I'm fishing on the bottom, I'm going to add a couple centimetres more depth just to make sure that the bait is on the bottom everywhere in this part of the swim. I love catching roach. Great species of fish. They're really tricky fish to catch technically. You know that you're fishing well when you're catching roach.